Elden Ring on Switch 2 is already a disaster, and that's a big problem. So Nintendo wanted Gamescom 2025 to prove to the world that the Switch 2 isn't just a gimmick, that it's powerful enough to finally handle the big boys of gaming, to compete with the Xbox and the PlayStation brand. And for the most part, it's worked, right? We got amazing hands-on impressions of Metroid Prime 4, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and even Cyberpunk 2077 running shockingly well. But then we got Elden Ring, and I'm sure you've seen the reports. It's shaping up to be an absolute disaster. Yes, guys, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition on the Switch 2 is shaping up to be an absolute disaster. There's reporters out there that are calling it unplayable. In fact, we have some news websites such as The Gamer writing articles calling this an unplayable game in handheld mode. And apparently Bandai Namco isn't even allowing people to record at Gamescom. Wow, so where there's smoke, guys, there's fire. And in my opinion, this does not look like a good look. If you're banning footage from being shown and the frame rate, according to all these reports, is straight out of 1998, this is not a good look. This is actually very concerning. Now, this matters because how this port runs could decide whether or not gamers and, most importantly, developers take the Switch 2 seriously going forward. Now, there was a lot of hype for the Switch 2 at Gamescom. The hype before the crash, right? Going into Gamescom, the excitement was sky high. We haven't had a proper Nintendo Direct for the Switch 2 yet. We just had the Indie Direct, we had the Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct, Partner Direct, but where's the big announcements? This was supposed to be the return of that E3 energy that we've been missing since E3's gone the way of the dodo. And Nintendo came in swinging, you know, fans were lining up to play Switch 2 demos of some of their first-party games like Air Riders, Metroid Prime 4, and then we had Final Fantasy 7 Remake, Intergrade, and then off-screen footage of some of these games were genuinely impressive. Like, these looked good, people were putting their reports in, their footage. And Metroid, in my opinion, looks like it's going to be the real deal. Like, this is going to be a banger game. Final Fantasy runs a lot smoother than most people, including myself, expected. But when Bandai Namco announced that Elden Ring Tarnished Edition would be playable at Gamescom, people thought, okay, here's the proof. Here's the moment that Nintendo's going to take the Switch 2 and show that it can hang with the PlayStation and the Xbox crowd, which is honestly, for the most part, all we want, right? But instead, it might be the single most damaging thing to come out of this show because it's getting very negative press, negative reception. So let's talk about reports from the floor, guys. These are the facts. Let's start with the facts, right? Media outlets like Nintendo Life, IGN, both went hands-on with Elden Ring, and neither of them were allowed to show gameplay. Two of the biggest outlets for this Nintendo brand, Nintendo Life, like the Nintendo source that a lot of people use, couldn't even show footage. And IGN, it's IGN whether you like them or not. Bandai Namco specifically banned recordings from their booth. That should be a red flag right away. Hands down, huge red flag. If a publisher is confident in their port, they want you to see it. When they hide it, you know something's up. And it's so weird because they had it playable at the convention, right? At the event at Gamescom. What was up? I don't know. What was up with that? Well, if you read Nintendo Life's write-up about it, they actually said it was like running Ocarina of Time, which is one of my favorite games of all time. So I'm like, at first, you know, reading that and seeing what they said, I'm like, okay, so it plays like Ocarina of Time. Well, it's running like Ocarina of Time, but not in a nostalgia way. not in a way that you're, oh gosh, this feels like Zelda. No, it's in the sense that the game is literally chugging at 20 frames per second, according to the report, dropping as low as 15, that the exploration for the game felt sluggish, and even in small areas like caves, it felt like a slog just to play. Like, the frame rate was that bad. Now, they also said the combat felt unstable, and that open areas, forget about it. Like, don't even try to play the game. Imagine having a booth and having your game received this bad. That's embarrassing, Bandai Namco. And IGN, they were even harsher in their take, guys. IGN actually said that the handheld experience was a disaster. Like, exact words, that every time they panned the camera, the game dipped into a slideshow. And they specifically said exploring Limgrave, which is the starting area of the freaking game, was nearly unplayable. So you can't even get out of the tutorial section because it was unplayable. Now combine that with what they called a confusing button layout, and the whole demo just sounds like it's a lot more frustrating than fun. If you can't even get out of the starter area of the demo and the button layout is confusing, no, come on, dog. What are you doing here? What are you doing, Bandai Namco? And this isn't just nitpicking, guys. To me, that sounds like it's a game-breaking issue, in all honesty. Now, why does this matter? Why should you guys sit here and care, right? Well, here's why you should care. Elden Ring isn't just another third-party port. It's not just some kind of Joe Schmo, I don't know, Puyo Puyo Sonic the Hedgehog game, right? It's one of the most celebrated games of the decade. It's won thousands of awards. I mean, I'm saying that hyperbole, but you get the point. This isn't some slouch game. This is Elden Ring. If Switch 2 can't run this game smoothly, it raises real questions about whether Nintendo's new system can even truly deliver on third-party support. You know, this third-party support that everybody says Nintendo's supposed to be getting, where's it at? If Elden Ring's a failure, it's going to be gone. It's not going to be great. Think about the messaging, right? Nintendo used Elden Ring at its first partner showcase. Remember, they had it on the sizzle reel for the Switch 2. They wanted the conversation to basically be like, oh, look, Elden Ring running on a handheld that's not the Steam Deck. But instead, now the conversation is going to be, why does this run worse than it did on the PlayStation 4? And for a next-gen console like the Switch 2, we can't have that. Okay? That's a bad look. And it's not a bad look just for Bandai Namco, but also for Nintendo itself. Now, to be fair, Elden Ring has never really been a technical marvel. Like, it's not like a technically innovative game, right? Remember the PS5 launch for it? People were playing the PS5 version of it on the next-gen hardware just to avoid the frame dips that the PS5 version had. From Software games have always been rough around the edges, performance-wise. There's always fans that kind of put their funny glitches and their memes out there. You'll see these viral videos, but fans also forgive it usually because the gameplay and the overall world design are so good. Like, you can forgive it. But here's the difference on PS5 and Xbox. Those performance problems were just mere hiccups. You know, little hiccups here or there. On Switch 2, they're literally crippling problems. That they're not hiccups anymore, guys. They literally cripple the performance. When you're dropping to 15 frames per second, just turning the camera in the starting area of the game, that's not the quirky from software performance hiccups that we saw on the PS4 and Xbox, right? That's a game that doesn't work. That's nothing that you can go out and sell. Okay, that's not a $70, $80 game that they're probably gonna give a Switch tax price to. And that's what makes this sting even more, because we've already seen third-party games run surprisingly well on the Switch too. Cyberpunk, does that not ring a bell, guys? That was a game that was once a broken mess on consoles and PC. Remember how bad the launch for this game went? It's been praised for how well it runs on the Switch too. Final Fantasy VII Remake has been getting a lot of rave reviews. It pushed the PS4 to its absolute limits, and now it's surprisingly smooth and visually stunning on the Switch too. So when you line these up next to Elden Ring, it starts to look less like a Switch 2 hardware problem and more like a developer problem from Software. Like, maybe they rushed this port. Maybe this team hasn't figured out the architecture of the Switch 2 yet. So what does this mean long term? Well, honestly, it's probably not the end of the world for the Switch 2. We're early in the console's life cycle, so we're going to be getting rough ports. The original Switch had a lot of disaster launches, like WWE 2K18. We even had Rhyme on there, Troll and I, just kidding, before things started to stabilize and get really good, and we saw ports like Witcher 3, right? Developers need time to learn the quirks of new hardware, but there's a problem here, guys, and that's perception. The dangers in the optics, the perception. If the first impression people get of your third-party games on your Switch 2 support is, wow, Elden Ring is unplayable. That could damage trust with gamers, right? Gamers remember this kind of stuff and they'll be hesitant. And with how competitive the market is right now, with Sony, Microsoft, and even PC handhelds like the Steam Deck gunning and fighting for attention, Nintendo can't afford any more bad publicity like this. They can't have bad ports, all right? Personally, I'm not shocked about this. Elden Ring has never been a technical showcase, like I said, and I don't think this is proof that the Switch 2 is weak. I think it's proof that Bandai Namco and From Software rushed this port to be ready for Gamescom without really optimizing it. I don't think that was a good strategy. It was a bold strategy, Cotton, but it didn't work out for you. Can this be patched eventually? Yes. All right, that's the go-to answer for all of this. Will it get better before the launch? There's still time. But right now, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition on the Switch 2 is officially the first Switch 2 disaster that's getting mocked and ridiculed online. And fans deserve to know that before they go out and start pre-ordering it or getting hyped based on the name value of Elden Ring alone. So let me know what you guys think about this. Are you surprised that Elden Ring is struggling badly on the Switch 2? Or do you think this is a hardware limitation or just lazy development? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But here's the bigger question. Does a rocky start for Elden Ring make you nervous about other third-party ports coming down the Switch 2 pipeline? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll be reading and replying. And if you want more coverage like this, make sure you hit that subscription button. We're on the road to 95,000 subscribers. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much, guys. Peace out.